Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Transforming 45. I am so excited this week. I'm trying a little bit of a different format, so I have someone live in the studio with me, which is exciting, and we're doing a video recording. So I have also started posting these podcasts on YouTube. So if that's a place that's more accessible for you to find Transforming 45, it is also there for you, as well as Apple Podcasts and Spotify and my website. So today I'd like to welcome Candice Cole.
Hello.
Who is a holistic therapist and hypnotist.
Yeah.
Yes. So I am so excited about this conversation. I think we're going to learn a lot today. And I can't wait to dive in. So Candice and I met about a month ago, I would say, thanks to the brilliant Vanessa Marie Dewsbury, who was on the podcast earlier. She was in one of the first episodes. And she created a group for female entrepreneurs to come together and connect. And so one of the results of that is that this podcast is becoming a place where female entrepreneurs can come and share their stories of transformation, because that is the thing that binds everyone together. Is when you start something a new way, when you start a new way of being, it's really not easy. It's scary. And having a community is really important. So I am thrilled that this podcast is becoming a place where women who are doing really incredible things can come and share their stories of transformation. So welcome, Candice. I'm so glad you're here today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. So let's start at the beginning. Tell me your story of transformation. How did you come to be where you are now?
Oh, geez. So how far back do I go?
As far as you want.
All right. Well, I grew up in Baxter, Allison sort of area, on a hobby farm. So I love animals and, kind of that little farm life.
Mm-hmm.
I like property to stroll around in the nature. But, so I ended up going to school in Scarborough, and that changed a lot. I became very spiritual while I was there. I started attending a church and doing Bible drives and quit drinking. And I do have some drinks now, but I can handle it now.
Yeah, at the time.
Yeah. And I don't know, I guess after that I was a medical lab tech, and I worked at RVH for 13 years, I think. And then the number 13 keeps coming up. You'll
interesting.
Notice this.
Mm-hmm.
Then in 2012, I had my son. I got married and had my son. And I had traveled over the Netherlands and was a nanny there before that. So after I had my son, I was noticing some postpartum anxiety, just a little bit. And then I had another baby. Mm-hmm. And her name was Audrey. She actually died 36 minutes after she was born. And that was really, really hard. So during that time, I started taking lessons to learn how to play the harp. I took an anxiety course to deal with the anxiety. I would get in the car and I would think I'm going to die. I'm going to kill my baby. Just at what else could go wrong. It was something in me, just the safety mode and the anxiety was intense. So I started to, I took that course and I started to meditate. And meditation, as we know, is so good for you. The sound of the harp is lovely. But yeah, the meditation became a big part of my life. And I actually met Vanessa shortly after that. I decided that I wanted to bring love and joy to people, because that would help me, helping others tends to make you feel good. So I decided I was going to be, instead of working in the hospitals, I was going to be a wedding planner. So I was doing wedding planning for a long time. And then in 2013, I had decided to take a Reiki course from a lovely lady named Tina Murad in Alston. So I took my Reiki level 1 and 2 with her. And she is so lovely, by the way. If you haven't met her yet, you need to meet her. She's incredible. Very gifted and very healing and soft. definitely part of this like good community of women. And I guess through that, it was kind of like I'd start with Reiki here and there, some people, but I was really quiet about it and very like, worried about what other people would think of it because it was kind of, you know, not really accepted and not many people were doing it. So, Vanessa used to have little get-togethers at her house with like smaller groups of people, and I would sometimes go to them. So I met a few people in the community there. And then I guess like wedding planning just got busy and COVID happened. That's where the real transformation changes in my life. So, just through that, I had to give back deposits. I had to pretty much like shut things down for almost 2 years, right? Like you're allowed like 10 people at your wedding. Then it was 15. Then it was like, no one wanted to get married with only 15 people. So I was like, okay, well, that's not an option anymore. This seems to not be going away. It felt like it, right? So I was like, what else am I going to do? So I ended up going through a divorce. And through that time, I took a relationship coaching course. So here I have the anxiety course, the relationship coaching course, the Reiki. So I'm like, oh, maybe I can do something with this. So I was like, because of the meditation, I thought, well, hypnosis would be great because it works on the subconscious level, right? Very much like meditation. So through doing guided meditations, I'm like, I could do this. Right? So I actually applied to U of T and I took clinical and group hypnosis there with my instructor is Georgina Cannon. She's a lovely woman. She's on Gaia and she's very out there. People know who she is. She's very knowledgeable. Yeah. So I'm really excited that I got to have that experience and learn from her. So just since March last year, I've been doing hypnosis and I'm so in love with it. I even took like a small neurolinguistics programming course as well to work with it because they kind of work together. Yeah, that's like, hi, I'm here now. So I have a few regular clients and then I get the odd person here and there. But yeah, I'm still kind of pretty new and I'm loving it. Like, it's so interesting to hear, like when you do past life regressions and things like that, the things that happen and how I've had clients be like, oh, my husband now was actually my husband in that life. And, you know, like it's funny how...
Yeah, the energetic bonds that are created throughout lifetimes. Yes. Yeah.
It's so interesting. Some things like I was like, oh, that's a thing. And you're hearing these people all say similar things. Like, oh, there's got to be like truth and reality to this. So it's a lot of like finding out new things. And I guess like it excites my curiosity to hear what's happened to these people. And, you know, sometimes something happens in a past life that is the reason you are doing what you do here in this life. Like, for an example, I can't wear turtlenecks. And we did a past life regression. I've always been like that. I've always felt like any tight thing around here makes me feel really like uncomfortable. And we found out a way that I died and it had to do with my neck. I'm not going to go into it, but
yeah.
Kind of cool and weird and
yeah, absolutely. Those energetic wounds. You can see it playing out now in the conversations that we're having around intergenerational trauma, right? So yes, those experiences, we have them because of the trauma that family has experienced in this lifetime, but you also can understand it on an even deeper level when you realize that if a wound hasn't been healed, it continues to come with you until you get to a space where you can do the actual healing work of that wound. Yeah.
And let it go. And that's so hard to just let it go, but
it is.
That's the cool thing about hypnosis, because you're so relaxed and your subconscious is forward. Your conscious is still there. You know what's going on. You can hear, you can stop it at any time or say no or whatever. But your subconscious is more open, so you can actually decide like, okay, I'm ready for this feeling, or you can say, I'm still holding on to part of it, but I'm gonna let some of it go. Like you have that capability, and you have to be ready for it. But like, don't ask for it if you don't want it.
Yeah, because it's coming. If you ask, it's coming. So I want to get into more of the neurology and the science around it. But I also want to acknowledge that I think listening to your story, this is a really interesting time where I think people are starting to step forward more, right? So there's patterns of grief and guilt and shame that show up, right? So even like at the beginning of our conversation, why do you think you whispered, I gave up drinking? And if you can't hear my whisper, it was, I gave up drinking. Why do you think you whispered that?
I don't know. Because it's like, it's so accepted. Everyone's like, let's go for a drink. It's so cool. Everyone wants to drink. But like, I don't like drinking. Like, it's, occasionally it's nice to have one or two to like relax, but I don't really enjoy it anymore. You know, why did we ever need to do that? You're literally masking who you are to put on this like, okay, I'm not so afraid to be myself now.
Right. So it's that shame story, right? We're afraid, we are ashamed to share our actual selves, and we need something that will chemically alter us before we are willing to do that. Yeah. It's interesting. I was having this conversation. So my youngest kiddo is 16. So he's just started experimenting in that world. Yeah. And so we were talking about it last night, and he asked me, so he asked me, like, why don't you drink? I only drink wine. And I said, because I don't actually like the feeling of being drunk. Yeah. I like wine because of its flavors and its complexity, and I like the sensoriness of it, but I don't drink it to alter my state. Right. Yeah. But it is that, and for young people, right, like for them to feel like they need to be chemically altered to really share who they truly are. It's the reinforcement of keep the self hidden. Okay. Yeah. Keep the self hidden.
And then they also have an excuse when you do something you really want to do, but you shouldn't.
Yeah.
You've got the excuse, well, I was drunk. I didn't mean it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you do.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the truth. And then the role of grief. So I have often thought, I've talked in this podcast before about, so I lost my mom I was 30. My youngest was 6 months old when she was diagnosed, and she died 1 month before his first birthday. And she was 52, one of the healthiest person I knew, and she was diagnosed with colon cancer, and it was over. But through that process, I have learned that grief and that experience allowed me to heal in this lifetime in ways that I maybe wouldn't have if I hadn't have had that experience. So was grief a catalyst? It sounded in your story like grief was a catalyst for you as well.
For change, yeah. Yeah. It does. It breaks you right down. It's like, I don't know, some people are into tarot. Like, it's like the Tower card. It like literally is breaking down everything. And you felt like you're so exposed and so, hurt by a loss like that. And it's almost like you get to reinvent yourself. And how do you want it to be this time?
Yeah.
Right? It gives you that opportunity. So kind of cool, but it isn't at the same time. It's a lot of healing.
Yeah, it's
painful.
Very painful, and this really deep, interconnected dance of the pain of that grief and what it is revealing to you about who you are, right? And I can't imagine the loss of something like that was of you, right? That would shatter an identity in a heartbeat.
My poor son. Yeah, I cuddled him for like 2 years straight. I was like, I was so upset.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it was probably about a whole year. We didn't do a lot.
No.
I was just so sad.
Mm-hmm.
And he's very touchy-feely and cuddly. And I know that it's because of me. I just like, every day I just wanted to hold him and love him and like, just loved him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I spent a lot more time cuddling than I probably would have. I probably would have gone out a lot more and had more like, you know, baby groups or whatever. But yeah, it was, I guess, healing for me. And, you know, he's a very gentle person now. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You're welcome, ladies.
Yeah. that love connection, and that we find a little moment of levity and joy and in almost anything, because that's what helps us to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. So I actually remember some of my past lives.
Oh, like without doing a hypnosis?
Without doing a hypnosis. Yeah, I just remember. And my son, who I was talking about, he does also one of them, which is really interesting. But one of my lifetimes, that it came to me one day while I was driving. I was driving to a massage, and it was like this download of information that just came. And it's completely connected to this conversation, because it was like late 1700s, and my mom, who was my mother in this lifetime and in that lifetime. So there is a matriarchal theme that runs through the lifetimes that I've experienced. And in that lifetime, she was a midwife and a healer, and was burned as a witch. And the result of that for me was this need to be the perfect woman, so that I wouldn't be associated with her, so that I could keep myself safe and not be burned also. So I completely turned my back on healing, on that feminine power, and became like the most model wife, citizen, quiet, covered myself so that none of that would be seen and I would be safe.
But you were miserable, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you weren't you.
No, I was not. I completely disconnected from who I actually was. And interestingly, my mom in this lifetime, my grandmother, when she was little, was going into her room and spilled boiling water on her. So she actually had a burn mark on her arm. So when all of this came through to me, it was a really deep connection of like the physicalness of still seeing the scars that she held physically and emotionally, because I always knew with her that there was some element of rage that was that she continued to process in this lifetime and didn't quite get there.
Right.
And so as I had this moment of like all of this recollection, it was the catalyst for me to realize I need to do this differently, because I was continuing to do that, to try to separate myself from the rage. That, and there are lots of brilliant things about my mom as well. But I was trying to disconnect myself from that rage element of who she was. And so I was hiding a lot. And it was that moment where I decided I was going to do it differently this time.
And that's when you started kind of working on like the shadow self and seeing like both the masculine and feminine.
Yes.
Yeah. What a difference it makes when you start realizing these things about yourself. And again, painful. But was your mom still here when you started this?
No. Yeah.
So
yeah, which is that. But her mom, my grandmother, is
okay.
So it has opened up some conversations with her that I don't think we would have had otherwise, which has been really interesting. But it is one of the things I wish that my mom was here to engage in this lineage of healing with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can still do it.
Yeah.
Through hypnosis or deep meditation, doing it yourself even. If you can remember your past lives, you probably can go right up into your Akashic records and see what's going on and work on things on that subconscious level and have conversations with you.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about that. So tell me about what happens in the brain with hypnosis, because I think most people have a very cursory notion of what hypnosis is, and it's not what you see on television.
No. Okay. So that's stage hypnosis, what you're seeing. That's people cluck like a chicken. Literally. So what you don't see when they do those things is they do it to the whole audience first. They do like a test and, say it's about a lemon or something. And they're like, okay, now you're tasting whatever test they're doing.
Yeah.
And they're looking in the audience to see who is the most suggestible. So those people are who they're looking for when they call up.
Interesting.
Because some people are a lot more, easily suggestible, I guess. So anyway, what we do is not that. So essentially just trying to get people to relax enough that they're, like I said, their subconscious comes forward. So you want to be in that theta brain state where you're more relaxed, more calm, and it's almost like that dream state where you're not sleeping and you're not dreaming, but it could be like a daydream sort of feeling. That's the state we want to get you in, because that's when your subconscious is forward and we can work on whatever you need to work on there, whether it's quitting smoking or working on like healing past trauma or, releasing an emotion that you're like not ready to release, or needing really badly to release. It just opens things up more, and that is your suggestible state. So when, I work with my clients, I find out, what it is, and I look at their body language, I look at how they speak, and I try to formulate what I'm doing with their subconscious mind to be in line with that. So if they're very descriptive, I make sure that my scripts are very descriptive, or, maybe they really love plants, or like I found out something that's like really intense to them that they love, brings joy to them. I'll somehow work that into the script. Like, okay, we're in a beautiful garden or whatever. And, you really go into detail with the flowers, let them kind of like really envision and relax and get comfortable. And that's when you can see on their face when they're relaxed enough, and you just start to go into the healing. So there's different studies out there. There hasn't been a lot of them. So sometimes it's so much faster for people healing than just like regular talk therapy. But you do have to do talk therapy first to get the information you need to make the hypnosis really relevant to that person. Because if I'm saying things that you're not aligning with, the whole time you're going to be like, what? Like, I'm not getting this. And you start to reject what, the hypnotist is saying. So, you really have to kind of get to know the person a little bit and spend a little time before you go deep. So I definitely recommend, if you're going to do hypnosis, go at least twice, because the first time they're still getting to know you, and usually it's more of a general thing. But second, third, fourth time, it's all geared to you.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. I'm curious about, what is theta brain state?
Okay, so there are different levels of your brain state. They're measured by hertz, and I honestly don't know. I don't remember off the top of my head exactly what the different hertz are for the states, but it's about the middle. So, you're very aware and that there's 5 states, and it's the middle. So
Okay.
we want you there because you're still conscious and you still know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to like knock you out and, you know, make
Right.
you my slave. We don't do stuff like that.
That would be very unethical. Yes.
My husband was worried about that. He's like, are you going to do things to me while I'm sleeping? Like, I don't want to be your slave. I'm like, sure, I'll be your slave. Honey, like, no.
That's hysterical.
But no, people do worry about that. So it's important to, you know, make sure that you're working with someone that you feel comfortable with and trust, and that you've really talked about everything that you are okay with, you know?
Yeah, because you're putting yourself in a vulnerable state, right? So it's really, making sure that you trust the person. Mm-hmm. I can see how that would be key, because if you don't, then there's always going to be that conscious mind that's questioning everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I do tend to usually say when I do hypnosis, take what applies to you and leave what doesn't, because it may apply to you later.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that way, if I say something that you're like, that's not quite right, you can just be like, okay, well, in the bank for later, maybe that'll, you know.
Yeah, resonate at another time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we're all on different levels of our journey.
Yes, we are.
So, you know, some things you would understand that, you know, maybe your neighbor wouldn't understand.
Yeah, because there's different states of understanding, right? So if we're in a place where we're still really questioning, like, well, is this even real? Is it like, I don't believe in any of that, right? It's really hard. Like if someone doesn't believe, then that's the state that they're bringing forward.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. If you go into hypnosis and you're like, I don't believe this, I'm just trying it out, don't bother. You're wasting your money. If you have that mindset, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. That's like me starting a new career and being like, I'm going to fail. I'm going to fail because I'm literally like, oh, I think I'm going to fail. I'm not going to put in as much effort. I don't believe it's going to happen. So where is the effort coming from? It's the same thing. If you don't believe something.
Yeah. And because you remain in control, right? So even when you're in a hypnosis state, you still have control. Yes. So if you're in a place of, I don't believe that this is going to work, then that is the control that you're exhibiting. Yeah. So what is the healing that you have seen happen through this process?
Okay. So I'm going to talk, this is my favorite. I'm going to talk about a woman who came to me. Her friend actually brought her because I had done a session with her friend, and her mom had passed away. She had called her that day and was like, I don't feel good, take me to the hospital. And apparently her mom was very like calling all the time saying she was sick, like, just all the time. So she was like, Mom, I'm busy, like call me tomorrow. And like really just fluffed her off. Well, her mom died that day. And she has carried that, and that like it's destroyed her. It took her from this beautiful, happy person and into just so depressed and so sad. When she walked into my house, the energy like was intense, and I'm like, okay, I have to work from home. So the energy right away, you could feel it. It was very ominous, very like, she's carrying this, she's not letting it go. And it happened a long time ago. So she's been like this for a long time, very worried and concerned and like ashamed, like feeling so much shame that she did that to her mom and regret. And anyway, so we did an emotion release to start for her. And then I took it into a generational healing where I had her talk to her mom and they went through a conversation and said the things they needed to say to each other, and you know, they hugged, and then she talked to her grandmother, and we did like a generational healing. And then we did a little bit of a timeline regression where we went back a little, and it was a long session. I usually don't do that much work, and I was just really feeling it with this girl, and I was just getting started, and I was like, oh, she has so much healing. So we did that, and oh my gosh, she cried when we were done, and I felt really bad, and I was just like, here's a tissue, and I'm going to go to the bathroom, I'll let you take a minute. And she cried it out for about 5 minutes, and then she kind of pulled herself together, and a smile started coming from her face, and it was like she just released so much. And I was pretty new. She was like maybe like my 4th client after I graduated, so I was kind of like, I don't know how this is going. She's crying a lot, like it's good to release, but I guess I wasn't sure what to expect yet, and that level of healing to witness that, it was uncomfortable at first because I didn't understand it. Right. I was like, what happened? Like, I don't know yet what's going on. And then when the smile came, I was like, oh, this helped her. And then she just started talking, and she started telling me everything that she had witnessed and gone through and seen, and like, talking to her mother, and like the way they just held each other, and it felt so real. And she said like she felt instantly like this pain in her heart just kind of float away. And that's something that like no amount of talk therapy, in my opinion, can do. It's literally in your head. You're working on that subconscious level, and you're like, like, I can work this through.
Yeah, it's because our conscious mind keeps us in the realm of thinking. Right. So it's so interesting. Years ago, I came across this. It's probably Brene Brown. Most of the time in my life, it's Brene Brown if it's something that I remember. It's like, you can't think your way out of an emotional problem. But that's what we are taught to do, right? Is to think and think and think and strategize and try to plan. But the truth is, you have to feel the feelings and have the energetic release of that. And that's another part of the conversation that has been missing for a long time, right? Is the energetic healing that has to happen. And the more we understand about how the brain functions and how energy expensive it is for a brain to constantly be in a red brain state, which is what's happening when we are experiencing grief, when we're experiencing trauma, when we're reliving things, even the day-to-day of thinking about how my life was before. When my alarm would go off at 5 o'clock in the morning, immediately I would go from my sleep state to my red brain state, because immediately the flood came in of everything that had to happen that day for me to just be able to put one foot in front of the other to make it through to the end of the day. And the energy expensiveness of that in the brain is tremendous. And so there is scientific understanding now of, energy. It's a real thing. Energy is real. And if you don't release it and heal the energy, no amount of talking is going to heal it or allow you to move forward.
So it's just important to understand where you're at. And if you're trying to heal it and it's not working, there are so many different types of healers out there. Like, not just hypnosis. I love hypnosis, and I would love to help you if you need help with that. But there are so many other different healing modalities that you might be more comfortable with. And I think finding what fits for you. But shadow work is like the biggest thing, like to understand your emotions and the energy behind those emotions and get that out is so huge.
Absolutely.
Something like we're not taught to do this. And oh my gosh, why aren't they teaching this in school? To well, we know why, but that's another whole
we could do a whole other episode. I know. But we're taught that emotions are either negative or positive, right? And they're the movement of toxic positivity, of always being in happy, whatever. And it's the scripted version of happy, not the real version of happy. But shadow work is not negative, right? No emotion is inherently negative or positive. They just are.
Yeah. Higher vibration,
Yes.
lower vibration.
Yeah. And allowing ourselves to go to the places that we don't want to go to is where healing really happens, and to release the resistance. So there's so much, again, energy that's taken up by resisting those things that we find either scary or shameful or painful.
Yeah.
But then we're spending all of that time in resistance when we could just
heal and let it go.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
be a happier, more
Mm-hmm.
higher vibrating
Mm-hmm.
being.
Yeah. And welcome that part of you as like, you are a beautiful and necessary part of who I am. Without you, I wouldn't be who I am. So I am going to love this shadow part of myself when it is healed and it's no longer strangling me. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, it's so real.
Mm.
So,
Yes, it is. So
I was hoping you might let me do an emotion release on you.
Absolutely.
Like, we won't do like a hypnosis. It'll more just be like, I'll just kind of take you, comfy.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Close your eyes, and then we'll just do like a quick emotion release. And I don't know.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the more concrete it is for people, the better.
Okay.
So here we go.
Okay. So get comfortable and close your eyes. So I want you to take a deep breath and release. Good through the mouth. And again. Now I want you to imagine all the muscle groups in your shoulders. Now let them go. Let them relax. Let them droop and drop. Get heavy. Let your neck rest. Let your lips and your mouth feel relaxed and just be. Release. Breathe out. Now your arms, let them relax. Your torso and all the muscles in your back. Release and let any tension go. Now I want you to imagine that you are in a beautiful rainforest. Very safe, bright rainforest with lush, beautiful trees. You can hear water right in front of you. If you look forward, there's a waterfall. It's dripping and hitting the rocks. The water is cool and the air is warm. It's soothing and relaxing. I look around and you see colors, beautiful colors in flowers, yellows and pinks and purples, lots of lush greenery, grass, beautiful. And here you feel very relaxed and very calm. Good. Now in front of you, there's a small clearing, and you're going to see 3 jars. One jar has the word anger on it. One jar has the word worthiness on it. And one jar says sadness. I want you to tell me, out of 1 to 10, how full is the anger jar?
About a 5.
Okay. And what about your sadness jar?
About a 3.
And what about your unworthy jar?
Like a 9.
So we're going to pick up that jar and we're going to sit with it. You're going to put it in your lap and you're going to face the other way and not look at the other two jars. Now we're going to open that jar. And you're going to put that unworthiness just in front of your body. Hold it up. And I want you to imagine that there is a color. What color do you see that energy of unworthiness in front of you?
Gray.
Gray. It's no longer inside of you. It was put into that jar and now it's in front of you. So that feeling has exited your body. It's gray. And how big is it?
It's like a big steam cloud.
Okay. So I want you to take that big steam cloud and we're going to make it about the size of a dime. Make it really, really, really small. And I want you to make it a lighter color. What color would you make it?
Aqua.
Beautiful. So this small dime-sized aqua feeling that you have, I want you to spin it. You're going to spin it clockwise, over and over. Spin it so fast. And then you're going to stop it. You're going to spin it the other way. Okay, now stop. Now I want you to put understanding, love, and light into it. Put all your understanding of where that comes from. And take a second to look deep within you and where that feeling's coming from. And we're going to give it love and light. Bright, beautiful light. And so much love. We're surrounding that energy now with beautiful energy. And that energy is pushing in on it and pushing it. And it's getting smaller and even smaller. Now it's the size of a tiny little dust particle. And I want you to pick that up with your hand and you're going to blow it. Blow it away to the world and say, I don't need this feeling anymore. Good. I release that feeling of unworthiness.
I release that feeling of unworthiness. Because I am worthy. And I create my own life. My own path.
And I love myself.
And I love myself.
I want you to take a deep breath. And I want you to imagine a different small piece of love, different energy of love, what that feels like. And it's the size of a dime, and it is aqua. You're going to put more and more love into it until it turns pink and beautiful and lovely. Nod your head when you've done that. Good. Now I want you to take that and you're going to push it into your chest and back into your body. And it's going to replace where that feeling of unworthiness was. Good. Now I want you to really feel the difference in that spot in your body where you felt that. And you know now that you are worthy and that you can do this. You're accepted and loved. And now I want you to look around one more time at your beautiful surroundings in the rainforest, because now it's time to say goodbye. Go back home. Take a deep breath. Good. And on the count of 5, you can open your eyes and tell me. 1, 2, 3. You're feeling a little more aware and alive. 2, and open your eyes.
That was really lovely.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Just a tiny little visualization. Definitely not a hypnosis session. But
No, but lovely. Like even just the lightness that you feel of allowing yourself to be really deeply connected to your body in that way and visualize an emotion in that way. Yeah. There's a shift that happens for sure.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I love seeing you I was copying with you.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, it's those somatic connections, right? Of taking what's internal and making it real.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you're working with your mind, your thoughts there, your mind's there, your creativity because you're imagining it, your heart is in it, your emotions are in it, your body, you're bringing your body movements into it. It's like your whole being is working there to release that. So,
yeah.
That's so neat.
It's beautiful. What's interesting also is that there's so much connection between, so last week's episode, my transformational coach, Leanna, led me through a parts work session.
Okay.
And it's a tool that I use in my practice as well. And there's so much interconnection between parts work and hypnosis. And there's just that thread that runs through them that I think is really beautiful, an important thing to notice because it's about that energetic healing.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. In class, we did a bunch of stuff on parts work as well. So it is really, really connected and being able to pull out those pieces and realize where they are and what they're feeling and how to deal with them. This whole thing is all connected, like the shadow work, the hypnosis, the healing, the intentions, Reiki is beautiful and healing.
Reiki is an initial place to start to get energy moving through your body is such a great first step. And then that allows you to be open and willing and even able to engage in more of that healing work.
Yeah. I think we're both Reiki masters. Right?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I think this was a really powerful conversation. We would love to know what you thought about this episode. So please subscribe, leave a voice note. You can also write a review, or there's also a prompt in the show notes where you can go down and respond and let us know what you think. And I hope that you can feel the really beautifully healing energy of this conversation today. So thank you.